It seems Google lost an antitrust lawsuit, which, based in red pilled Google. Fantastic stuff. It violated U.S. antitrust law with its search business, a federal judge ruled Monday, handing the tech giant a staggering court defeat with the potential to reshape how millions of Americans get information online and to upend decades of dominance. Good. Honestly, get rid of search engines altogether. Get rid of bring us back to GeoCities. The company spent tens of billions of dollars on exclusive contracts to secure a dominant position as the world's default search provider on smartphones and web browsers. These contracts have given it the scale to block out would-be rivals such as Microsoft's Bing and DuckDuckGo, the U.S. government alleged in a historic antitrust lawsuit filed during the Trump administration. I remember this being filed. I did not think they were going to come away with a loss. I have to say, Apple's lawyers, they got some shooters, you know? Jesus. I did not expect it to turn out this way. Violated Section 2 of the Sherman Act. They're a monopolist. Nice. Okay, well, wait, hold on. I'm not exactly an expert on antitrust law, something that I do respect quite a bit more than the stock market. Please, Apple antitrust, big brain news commentators, will you fill me in? This is from 4 months ago. They're explaining the lawsuit. Please, take it away.
The U.S. Department of Justice is suing Apple over what it calls an iPhone monopoly, and the government wants Apple to change the way Apple products are designed to work. The case revolves around the Apple ecosystem and this idea of the walled garden, where users can feel locked into staying with an iPhone when certain Apple services only work with Apple products, or how the Apple Watch only works with the iPhone, or how it can be difficult or expensive for users and app makers to leave the iPhone to use another app store.
Isn't it cool how, as technology has gotten better, the usability of our devices hasn't really changed much, but it seems like all we need to do now is make more accounts, and there's even more limited integration than there used to be. You know, it would be possible for corporations to make essentially universally communicable technological devices, right? Like, that's not exactly crazy technology. It would honestly, in a lot of ways, be easier than what we do currently. Can you imagine if car companies started making deals with different oil companies, and Ford was like, yeah, from now on, you can only get your Ford refueled at Shell gas because of like the proprietary design of the gas pump of Shell, along with the way the you know, the tank is for the Ford. They're literally trying to push things that way. I know!
The lawsuit even calls out how tap to pay on the iPhone is also locked down to the Apple Wallet. In the 88-page lawsuit, prosecutors say Apple deployed what it called a playbook to keep the iPhone on top with its app store that would, quote, extract higher fees, thwart innovation, and offer a less secure or degraded user experience, and throttle competitive alternatives. In a statement, Apple says, this lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets. If successful, it would hinder our ability to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple, where hardware, software, and services intersect.
Reminder, by the way, that the reason there's no VGG app is because we can make one for Android, but if we wanted to make one for the iPhone, the only way to get an app for the iPhone is through the Apple-controlled Apple Store, and they only allow apps that have financial transactions through them if a significant cut of the transaction goes to Apple. There's no way to just put a program on an iPhone without Apple having their grubby hands all over it. Like 30%. It's insane.
Apple goes on to say that this lawsuit would set a dangerous precedent, quote, empowering government to take a heavy hand in designing people's technology. The New York Times reports that Apple plans to file a motion to dismiss the case in the next 60 days, and Apple will emphasize that it is legal to adopt policies or designs that competitors may not like if it makes using the iPhone a better experience. This may become a landmark case. And
this isn't the right lawsuit. The antitrust thing today is about Google. Am I getting two different antitrust lawsuits confused? Oh, we were talking about Google. I typed in Apple in the YouTube search. Why didn't you guys tell me? Why didn't you guys? Okay, well, you know, me being a goofy goober aside, it doesn't take away anything from the broader point, right? But sure, all right. Google antitrust. We love our giant tech companies, folks. Oh, we love them. Oh, NBC News 1 minute ago. Breaking. I know, Skynet, you've linked it a few times.
Breaking news this hour, a federal judge has just ruled against Google in a massive antitrust lawsuit. That suit involves its core business, online searches. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is here to help unpack all of this. Brian, this is a big win for regulators, right? Because they have been trying to argue that there was a monopoly here at Google.
Yeah, and by the way, we're still poring over this 286-page document from the District of Columbia. Really, this is a massive antitrust ruling that the judge in this case is turning onto the Sherman Act. This is basically an antitrust law that we've heard in the context of a big landmark case against Microsoft in 2001, now being used against Google here. And this judge found that there were basically two areas where Google was basically engaging in antitrust: search and text advertising, that they basically controlled the monopoly. They said it for the search engine. They were basically coercing companies into making Google the default search engine and not giving them much choice to go elsewhere, simply because of the massive scale that they have on advertising dollars. And on text advertising, they pointed to a pretty jarring stat that in 2020, its market share in that market was 88%. So you have...
that is pretty jarring. Google.
Meta, the judge, saying, quote, Google is a monopolist and has acted as one to maintain its monopoly. This is a huge win for the 38 states and territories that were on this suit. What happens next? We don't know. Could there be injunctions? Could there be criminal fines potentially? We'll have to see. But the stock is down almost 4.5% on a day that's already been pretty bad for Wall Street.
We're talking at the top of the hour about how bad this day is already on in the stock market. So essentially, this means the judge is saying Google went to other companies, like other phone companies, and made deals that they were going to use the Google search.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when you think about on all the devices that we have, if you're on a Mac, if you're on a browser.
It's so cool that we need a years-long antitrust lawsuit to discuss whether or not it's a monopoly to do the things that we all know they're doing. It's not like the monopolistic behavior of Google is a secret. We know that they've been making deals to get, you know, Google Chrome or their own products or services, or like listing on their search engine or whatever, like all of that business. We already know they've done that. It's years long because big tech companies have literal armies of lawyers. Yep, I love it. I love the system. I love the system. The current CEO, Sundar Pichai, did I get that right, is a monopoly specialist. He got his big promotion for sneakily resetting everyone's homepage to Google and Internet Explorer. Nice. Fantastic stuff. Actively making the user experience worse for everyone. That's awesome.
I mean, it's the software as well. In many cases, Google is the default browser. They're alleging that the way that they made themselves a default browser through some of these deals and agreements is antitrust.
And has Google said anything to this point?
Google has not responded. We did reach out to a request for comment. They haven't said anything so far, but we'll have to see, and we'll be keeping our ear to it.
Is it too soon to ask if this changes how we... I mean, we use Google as a verb, Brian. Is this going to change how we search?
Well, I mean, you know, you would imagine that Google's defense of this would be, well, maybe our market share is so large because we're just the best search engine and we offer the best text ads that are out there.
That in court.
And they have argued that. But again, this judge didn't seem to agree with that. The real big question here, Kate, is what can be done about this, right? Google is already a massive company among other tech giants. What can be done here? We don't know. We'll have to see whether or not there's any sort of penalties, injunctions, or et cetera.
All right, Brian Chung on that break.
I feel like there's not even anything to talk about with regards to the case, because there's no question that Google was doing the things that they were accused of doing. We know that. We know that it's bad, and everyone complains about everything. It's the enshittification process, right? How every website, every service, every digital product inevitably gets worse. Why does it get worse? Because of the stock market. Because a publicly traded company, in order to make its shareholders happy, needs to increase in value, not just stay at its current value. And even if the company itself is making steady, reliable profits, that isn't the shareholder price or the share price going up. So the shareholders aren't benefiting, and the shareholders are the ones who call the shots. So they have to keep trying to add hype with new stupid bullshit, changing website layouts, you know, making the program worse. Here's a new account you have to log into to get access to your double super good ultra features or whatever. It's every website, every service, every product, everything that is publicly traded every time will eventually go to shit every time, because eventually you run out of ways to improve upon a product or service. I guess you could go for Google's route, and Google, in addition to making their own services worse, Google search is objectively worse now than it was in the past. Like if you search anything now, it's just a litany of stupid bullshit at the top. You've got like fake AI summary and then other fake AI summaries and top stories and da-da-da, and everything gets pays to be put at the top. It's crazy. Who uses Google search? I imagine billions of people, so, you know, it's repulsive. Maybe I'm showing my ignorance, but I feel like if the stock market has made profits as a motivation less relevant, because no matter how profitable you are, you can keep the stock investors hype, you can coast magically. You're not incorrect. That is absolutely objectively true. Being a loss leader did not used to be a thing. It did not used to be possible for you to, for years and years, run a company that did nothing and lost money, but somehow people who owned it were making money. This is entirely an invention of speculative investment, you know? The closest thing you could get to that before was getting a bunch of people, like taking out a bunch of loans to start a business that you make no money off of, and then you can't repay the loans. But in that case, you're in debt and possibly wanted. Whereas in our current system, you can be a loss leader, produce nothing, lose money, crash, and then just leave a millionaire because you invested at the right time and sold at the right time. Do you think Google is going to be broken up? No. There's not a regulator on earth with the balls to actually go through the logistics of breaking Google up. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I want to see it happen. Apparently, it's straight up illegal to be a loss leader in California. They should tell Californians about that, because I don't think they've gotten the memo. God, I wish we could nationalize businesses. I wish we had the sauce. We don't have the sauce anymore. Study finds consumers are actively turned off by products that use AI. I could have told you that. Again, this trend is being driven entirely by venture capitalist hype and not at all by the consumer. That's literally it. That's literally it. That's it. True, Kowalski, but that's because he ran it at a loss until he reached a point where he could start making a profit. Whereas nowadays, you can be a loss leader without ever making a profit. The lead that you can have is the stock market evaluation. How does nationalizing work? You yoink it. Been seeing so many AI companion apps lately, it's insane. It's basically like every website and every tech company are doing it. You're seeing AI adverts on Google products. You're seeing it in basically all social media. You're seeing everything, every service. Every service now is talking to you about AI. Why? Did they do like consumer market testing to determine whether or not people wanted this? Trust me, they didn't. They're doing it because they want to sell it in a keynote speech to their investors. We're part of the future. Look at our AI, you know? And then more people will invest, the share price will go up, and all of them are doing what they're legally obligated to do, which is prioritize the share price for the profits of the shareholder. And that's it. No one benefits. Nothing new is made. No one's life is improved. No economic productivity took place, but somehow trillions of dollars change hands. The GDP line continues to go up. A bunch of horrible, horrible people make a lot of money and walk away at the point they feel they're able to, and you get nothing except worse products, worse, more expensive products. You get nothing for everything. Well, investment bankers are probably either not very self-aware or not very smart, Sake, so it makes sense. Yeah, shorting companies, short-selling companies, comrade. At a certain point, could the economy just become companies trading with each other? Well, I mean, to an extent, that's the whole economy anyway. But I assume what you mean by that is, can the whole economy just be like high-level abstract stock market evaluation bullshit and not real? And it already is. I'm sorry to say, it already is. In terms of real economic productivity, a term that I'm inventing for my own purposes right now, like how many cars are made in America? How much food do we grow and then eat? You know, oil that we drill up and then put in barrel, like all that crap, you know, stuff that actually happens already does. America's economy is nothing special. I'm sure we're quite a bit behind China just by virtue of population. We're probably behind India. We're just talking about stuff that's done, real work that's done. Do you think more work is done in America than in India, a country with 4 times the population? I bet you they work longer hours too. No, of course not. I'm not necessarily saying all that higher level stuff is worthless, but in my mind, when I think of like higher level economies, I think of like technological development that allows us to enjoy commodities that are at a higher level than one might experience elsewhere. Like, for example, over here in America, you know, we might have better or more cars, better access to a wide variety of technology, cleanliness, civic services, the availability of services that you need to live, like healthcare. How much are we ahead of India with regards to healthcare? If you took a look at our GDP per capita, you would think that we were all getting robot laser doctors to fix our injuries. We're not. A lot of our economy is just caught up in the financials. It has nothing to do with the real world. It's like London. The UK is dying. You know, even though it ostensibly has a pretty big economy, a lot of that is just the fact that London is a financial capital. So they trade and they trade and they trade and they trade and they trade. And, you know, how much of that translates into food in the mouths of needy children, considering the fact that a significant portion of the UK's children are varying levels of starved? It doesn't. Here's a paper where they developed a model for breast cancer prediction. What, using AI? When I talk about AI, like venture capitalist hype bullshit, if your impulse is to respond to that with, well, here's a completely different use case actually being applied in a way that materially benefits people, I feel like you're being a contrarian who's deliberately missing the point. I'm talking about generative AI, text, text bots, chat GPT, whatever else. If you're saying you're using a machine learning model to help identify cancer cells, great. I'm not standing in the way of that at all. I promise you. Sure, sicker machine learning, learning AI on that. Okay, go for it. Yeah, that's great. That helps people. That's real. Yeah, exactly, Annie. It's the application point here. You know, it's where it's being done. Yeah, we're mostly talking about generative AI. I am a divine being. I do not want to be communicated with by a machine. You do not exist. I do exist. I have a soul. You do not. Don't talk to me. Don't pretend you can talk to me. I do not want to interface with technology that has a friendly voice. I want to interface with technology that looks like a alien-esque 1980s, you know, I want to engage with computers through a command prompt. If I open up a new app and the app says something like, "Hello, username, welcome to this app. We're so happy to have you." I'm closing that shit. I'm deleting you off my computer, okay? I just want the program to pop up. Maybe there's a little help menu with a drop-down tab where I say, "Help." I don't know what program I'm using here. Art program, Blur, you know, pen, pencil, how to use this, whatever. Give me a brief little prompt that was written by a human being. When does his ass ever used a command prompt? I like the look of it, okay? You know what? I used it while playing Alien Isolation, all right? The green text. I'm not an anti-intellectual on tech stuff, Wax Newman, because I don't want to use Linux. You're so pretentious. You're not some high IQ savant floating in the gaseous bubble of your own brain above the shit and piss ocean, okay? I just don't give a fuck about using I don't care. I don't want to spend hundreds of hours fine-tuning and crafting the specifics of my operating system. I don't care to. I'm sure there are parts of using Linux that I would like if I cared to spend that time, but it's just not something I'm interested in. Okay?